Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this debriefing session with Anirudh. I'm really glad to be here. Anirudh has a fantastic journey. He started from a 555 and ended up with a 765. Perfect scores in Quant Verbal and a phenomenal improvement in DI. So that's kind of my short and brief intro. We'll have this session for about 30 minutes. Anirudh has a hard stop at 9:30 p.m. IST, or I think his is what 12:30.
12
Your
Eastern.
time, 12 Eastern, okay. And so, Anirudh, why don't you just briefly introduce what is it that you do, and just what motivated you to go for your MBA, and then we'll go forward from there.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you so much, Rajat. It's like an honor to be doing this with you. So just wanted to say that on the call. My background, so I went to Georgia Tech where I did my bachelor's and master's in industrial engineering and then in machine learning. Currently, I work as a supply chain management consultant. So I'm very focused in this functional area that's called supply chain planning. And I do a lot of work there. Motivation behind the MBA, I feel that supply chain, especially since COVID, has really become a hot topic. And I kind of want the MBA to give me those real world business skills and learn how to make strategic decisions. And I move from more of a technical functional place to an overall strategic organizational level thinking. So that's my motivation behind the MBA. And of course, the GMAT is an integral part of that journey. And that's why I'm here today.
So you want to move up the food chain in many ways.
Exactly.
Okay.
The goal is to be running supply chains for the world's best organizations.
Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting where if you look at, I don't know if you guys follow up the top skills that employers look for. GMAT does a phenomenal survey of employers. It's about 900 employers they do every year. And this year, three things have come up. From problem solving, strategic thinking has become the number one skill that they want. The second thing is AI and machine learning has gone from number 21 to number 4. It's the largest jump they've ever seen. And then analytics has gone from actually number 21 to number 3. Analytics has gone to number 4.
Yeah.
Another 11 point jump. That's a huge jump. So with your background and with your focus, I think definitely in the right place. But let's kind of start with the GMAT. Starting score 555, Q76, DI 69, and now you're a 765. So walk me through that thought process when you saw that 555 when you gave the first mock, and you were someone who was trying for an extremely high score. So and then let's talk about how you strategize your improvement.
Yeah. So I took a mock test and I got the 555. Now, this was my first ever exposure even to the GMAT, right? So I was like, okay, fine, 555, whatever. Like, this is a journey for me to go on. And I started self-studying and I used some other various resources and I still got a 555. That day was a very bad day for me. Was super upset. I was like, I spent 4 months studying on my own and I couldn't crack it. At that point is when I realized that I need a coach, I need a mentor. Something is going wrong here because it's like that Einstein quote, right? To do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result is insanity. I was like, something's got to change. So that second 555 is really the fire that lit up in my brain. I was like, I need to do something. And that's when actually I came across your video on YouTube when I was just searching for how to learn GMAT, how to ace GMAT. And you said this video in Quant specifically, which Quant was one of my weak areas. And as an engineer, it was even more an ego hit that like, what am I doing? I can't do Quant. And you talk about your methodical approach to learning Quant, right? Learning those core concept skills, the process skills. Yeah, the process skills. You learn those process skills and then you cement. And you cement that same day that you're learning these concepts and the process skills. And honestly, that changed the game, right? Because my approach to problems started getting much better. I stopped looking at the GMAT as some ego or like, I need to do well on this test just because I'm an engineer. All of that went away. And it was like, let me learn how to approach these questions for the sake of being a good problem solver.
Okay.
And that's how the journey started. for me.
I think there's some really interesting attributes. So, and this is something that that a lot of people can take away. So, you spent 4 months, you still got that 555. A lot of people would have given up and said, maybe it's not my cup of tea. You did not. You really said, okay, I know I can do it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not approaching it right. That's one piece. The second piece is when you saw that video and just, I think this is something that you don't know. I usually don't teach quant,
Yeah.
and you're going to see a LinkedIn post very soon from me if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, where I'm honestly within e-GMAT, I'm one of the worst quant instructors because math comes very naturally to me in
Yeah.
general. So that's very interesting that you're saying that. Uh,
Yeah.
but let's talk about this. So, I mean, you had that 30th percentile, and then you really said in that start in Q76 about that 30th percentile or so. And you said, okay, I've got to change my approach. If I change my approach, I can fix that. And you understood the importance of cementing. So let's walk me through that Q76 to that perfect Q90 or 100 percentile. It must have been a very long journey. How did you persist through it? What was, what motivated you to kind of carry on?
So we'll start with this. It was a 6-month long journey with many, many nights of self-doubt. And one thing that I want to make very clear is that I've also been on Reddit. I've been on GMAT Club. I've read the posts with people with insanely high scores and they come across like geniuses. So my thing here is I am by no means a genius. I'm here to say that hard work and persistence gets you the score you want. Now, how does specifically that journey went for 6 months? So for me, with quant, there were three main areas if we break it down. First is that a lot of the concepts I simply forgot. I learned them in middle school and high school, and I simply forgot them because you don't use them in the real world, right? Business, industry, whatever.
Inequalities, you don't use them, for example.
Exactly, right? Who's thinking about like fractions and all that, right? So when I went through the e-GMAT course, I took a very, very slow and methodical approach. I did not even set a GMAT date in my mind. I was like, I'll take it when I feel ready. And from January till July, all I was doing is today I'm going to learn this concept. Let's say it's number properties. And I'm going to immerse myself in number properties. Every example, every cementing, every single video, if I get the question wrong, or even if I get it right and I feel, oh, did I get it right because of luck? Or maybe I got it right this time, but not every time. I used to watch the videos, and the brilliance of the videos is the fact that each solution video is broken down by process skill, and you can see exactly where I made the mistake when I was solving the problem. So it's not an abstract science anymore, right? I don't need to bang my head and say, why did I get this wrong? I know I got it wrong. I missed it at infer, or I missed it at analyze, or I missed it at like contextualize, right? All those different process skills. That changed the game, because the reason I could get a Q90 is because every single quant problem I approached with the same process skills that I learned by repeatedly month after month seeing those skills. And so by the time I'm handling a quant question, even if I don't really know how to do it, or I'm like, your pressure, right? There's time pressure. You want to nail the score. I was like, it's fine. I've seen the video. Let's start from scratch and go through it. And I think that was the secret to the Q90.
That, first of all, that's phenomenal. I must say Payal should have been doing this interview because she invented these process skills. And honestly, that's one of the best things. I mean, we redid our quant course in 2021, so we launched a new one, and people love the process skill approach. I can really say why. I can see why people love the process skill approach. Overall. So did you track your activity grades as well? When you went through a learning activity, you got a score and you got an A or an A minus over there.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely vigilant about tracking it, but to be honest, like when I got an A, I wasn't as happy as when I got a B. And I'm like, okay, why did I get a B? Let me spend even more time on that area. I think that's where the grade really helped. The A is just like a nice, validation. Like, okay,
it's cool. A reconfirmation. It's a validation. You rightly said. Okay, so that's good. And what were your cementing scores? Do you remember what was the range around?
Yeah, so quant cementing was actually going pretty well for me. Medium cementing used to always be a 90 or 100, 90%, 100%. And then for hard cementing, I was always crossing that 55% threshold.
Perfect.
Some days were like 90s and 100s if I was really locked in and focused. Some days when you're tired, it was like a 60 or 70. But my thing is that the more you do, the more problems you see. And this is where I specifically would like to thank e-GMAT. You guys just have so many problems, like such a large question bank that you're not scared when you're taking a mock, right? And it's more the fear of getting stuff wrong and the fear that you haven't seen the question before that affects your mental.
That's true.
And actually seeing the question and being like, I don't know how to, like, once you actually see the question and you have that confidence behind you, you're ready to go. And I think
I just want to point out one thing you said, and which is, I think, really important for a lot of people who are watching this. You said when you got a B, you got more excited because there's something for you to learn.
Yes.
And I think so that's really, really good. So that's something that everyone can really say. When you falter, don't get disappointed. Take it as a learning opportunity. Learn from it. So I want to go on. Sorry, go ahead. But we want to go on verbal because you only have 2 more minutes.
Yes. Let's talk about verbal.
Yes. So perfect verbal score as well, a V90. Now you were strong in verbal, but still getting to a perfect score requires a level of precision that few people get to. So tell me, what does it take to get to a V90? What are the skills that you need to learn?
So one thing is, there's a course within e-GMAT. Now I'm saying you can learn this anywhere. I just liked e-GMAT's version of this. It's called Master Comprehension, and it's that pre-thinking concept, right? You read the passage, you read the question, your mind should already start thinking. Let's say it's a weaken, right? Weaken the argument. You should already be thinking in your head, how would I weaken this argument? Now, this is a very important thing because I fell into this trap too. Sometimes I pre-think a little too much and then an option looks attractive and I just circle it. I'm like, okay, boom, done. You still, just because you pre-thought doesn't mean you got the question right. It means you're on the way to getting the question right. But the really important thing was I learned that pre-thinking and, from the master comprehension, but no matter where you go, what tech, what company you use, whatever you're studying, the important thing for verbal is really understand the argument. And for me, what I did is I used to straight up at the beginning write the conclusion, write the premise over and over again. Conclusion is this, premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, pre-think, which is actually how the e-GMAT answer key also looks, right? When you get a question wrong, you can start to pinpoint.
Yes. Very similar to the process skills piece.
Yeah, it's like I missed the conclusion of the paragraph. So no wonder I got the question wrong. And that's often where I feel people get trapped, is that you interpreted the conclusion wrong, and therefore you picked a tempting option. And the way to winnow down and get that perfect score is honestly error log and just keep going. Keep going. I was doing, for the last month before my GMAT, I was doing 25 verbal questions, medium or hard, every single day.
That's, really well said. It's again about iterating till you reach that level of perfection. And until you honestly won't get a question wrong. At that point. But it's about building those core skills. And to build those core skills, you have to be very deliberate. You've got to write the conclusion route. You've got to write how the author arrives at the conclusion. And like you said, be in the shoes of the author to really say, okay, how is the author thinking about this argument and how can I weaken it? Yes, that's absolutely critical. Okay.
And can I add one thing here? With verbal, especially as an engineer tech background, I'm so scared of verbal. Even in the real GMAT, I was so scared when I got to verbal because I was like, one off day or one day you're not thinking like the author, you're done, right? Go to the shed, verbal is done. So I think what's really important when you're learning verbal is not being scared and just diving in, right? Write it down. This is the conclusion. If it's wrong, write it again. When you get the question wrong, write it again. This really is the conclusion because that's what gets it through your head. And I think doing the due diligence instead of rushing, even if you're
Yes.
busy and it means you do 2 questions a day properly, that's better than doing 20 questions not properly.
Yes, it's about building those mental connections, making sure those neurons fire the right way. When
Yeah,
you're reading a conclusion, you're visualizing the right piece of information and translating it properly with regards to the premises. As long as you learn to do this, if you take the first 30, 40 questions and spend 10 minutes per question doing that, you're going to find that time will come down to a minute and a half or so. So
absolutely.
that's something that's going to happen very quickly. Um, what were your metrics on Scholaranium in hard and medium?
For verbal, um, I would say hard was hovering around a 70, but medium
Mhm.
used to always be pretty consistently 100. Um,
That's phenomenal.
yeah, but I mean, I think verbal, I just I don't know the English term. It's just like question after question after question every single day. Eventually, it'll start clicking, and the option will it'll highlight
Yes.
itself for you. So
Okay. I absolutely agree with that. And that error log is absolutely critical once you reach a certain ability. That's where it tells you this is where you're still faltering. This is why you're still faltering. And that I think helps you improve or overcome that score plateau. Let's talk about that last thing, data insights. Huge improvement. DI 69 to 84. 84 is 98th percentile. Um, Tell me how you went about it. What were the key milestones during this time, and how did you keep yourself motivated?
so let's very frankly, I have a master's in machine learning. What am I like? I remember that first practice test. I got that score on DI, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what do I know anything? Uh, DI is a game. DI is less of it's a game. You have to really understand the test taking strategies to pass DI. So, when we think about the journey, we'll start with this, right? With DI, when I was going through the e-GMAT course and just in general, right? Even when I'm doing official guide questions or when I'm doing like timed practices on GMAT forum, whatever it is, I think this is where I really want to highlight the importance of a coach. So I want to thank my coach from e-GMAT. Her name is Rida.
Hmm.
I think for DI, I would like to say she's probably the biggest reason I could make the jump that I did. And the reason why is because as much as DI is about getting a question right, they know that DI is hard. DI is like the previous IR section from the old GMAT. They design it to be challenging. That's the part that we don't learn in school. It's about how well can you click that day.
Hmm.
At the end, no DI question is ever asking some far off concept like in quant. They usually pick elementary quant and verbal concepts and tease you with the data twist. So for me, what I had to learn, number one, was learn to let go. On my exam, question one on DI, my mind went blank. I was like, what is happening? Right? It was just a some problem, right? But I was like, I don't know how to do this. And I skipped it. And where the value came is I have a coach like Rida telling me, look, first question one, you skipped it. So what? Get everything else right. There's 19 questions to go. Get them all right. Who cares about question one? And if you really do that well from 2 through 19, you can come back to one and fix it, right? And you're going to get the score you want.
And I think it's some context is important. DI was your third section.
DI was my third section.
And that context was really important because Rida, knowing his Anirudh's metrics, already knew he was super strong in quant and verbal. And because the test is also section adaptive, in addition to being question adaptive, so she knew upfront you're going to start facing challenging questions because
Yes.
you have done well in quant and verbal. So that's kind of where knowing having someone who knows the test inside out is really critical. But so that's just that context is really important.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I think the second thing, and this is another context thing. You need to let go of perfection and pursue progress, right? And I wrote about this a little bit on my
Mhm.
article. Like, okay, if you're going for an 805, like you're great, go for it, right? I don't want to talk to those people; they're geniuses. If you're going for a score that gets you into the school you want to go to, you don't need an 805. No one needs an 805. So at that point, it's like learn to let the question go, because if you spend 5 minutes on question one, which I used to do a lot, and Rida used to coach me up and say, what are you doing? Get 2 through 19 right, and you're going to get your dream score. So that's a very important principle that comes through a coach. But if we also come back to the basics, you need to see a wide variety of problems so you're not scared, right? Like those kind of last minute tricks where, oh, skip question one, it'll be okay. That comes after, but your fundamentals also need to be really strong. And Rida really pushed me. She knows that I don't like DI. It scares me. I get annoyed when I do
Even
DI.
though you have a degree in machine learning, just to be very clear.
Exactly. Like I always get very upset, but she was very positive, very encouraging, and more importantly, she's a coach. She was like, Anirudh, you suck at DS. Time to start working on DS so you're not scared. Because the thing is, you want to walk into the test confident on every single question. And that's the value of a mentor and the value of just doing a lot of practice, which it's great to have a question bank that can give you that.
Yeah, I think the really fundamental piece which is there, it's you need a validation process to say you have ability, and this is where for Rida, for every mentee that she has to really tell which all milestones have they achieved, which ones they haven't. There's a reporting structure that we have internally,
Yes.
where they go through this, and if your hard accuracy, for example, is 70% and your medium accuracy is 90%. Then we know, if you miss a question, doesn't matter. You're unlikely to miss a medium question. You're going to miss a hard question, and the test is not going to penalize you as much. And I see Rida is commenting here, even though she's traveling to her native place. Right now, she's probably on the road, driving to Kerala, and she's commenting here. So that's really good. I mean, she cares about you. So that's wonderful. So DI, verbal DS was one area.
Yes.
GITA or TP and MSR, how are they?
Yeah. So for me and Rida actually kind of did a survey one day. We both just jumped on a call and we were like, let's take a lay of the land. This is your data insight section. There's these type of questions. She was like, you're killing it at table analysis questions. Stop wasting your time. Right? Mm-hmm. You're going to get those right. Even if you make a silly mistake, I don't care. That's fine. She was like, GI and DS. These two are areas where you really, really need to improve. And she focused me, right? Instead of wasting my time or being insecure and saying, okay, I'm just going to study all the questions because I need to get everything right. She was like, no, let's be smart. Let's only focus on GI and DS. And so we were able to go on that path. One thing, though, especially for GI, is that on e-GMAT, you guys got some crazy graphs in there. Yes. You guys got some process flows that I'm like, what is happening? How did you even come up with that? But because you came up with that, when I see something weird on the test, I'm like, oh, well, Rajat has made something even weirder. So this is not that weird.
It's Pyle, not Rajat, just to be very clear. It's Pyle, yes.
Whoever it is, like, they made these questions so weird and so niche that when I'm seeing this, I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm just going to do what I did there, right? And that's very important because at the end of the day, when you're solving the question, you're going to remember all the questions you've got wrong in the past and start thinking, well, how am I going to perform on this one, right? And you're trying to build a system. There's a quote from James Clear, actually, right? Atomic Habits. You're only as good as the system that you've built.
Yes.
So the system that we've built with you and Pyle and Rida is the system of, I've seen so many questions that it's like clockwork for me. This is just another DS question. This is just another weird graph question. That system is important. And that was how I kind of surveyed the different questions.
And this is absolutely critical for data insights, just because DI is not something that you do in school, and there's a lot of potential for weirdness to set in.
Yes.
There's a lot of scope where I can really give you graphs with funny looking bubbles and axes over there. So yeah, so that's something That's there. I see a couple of questions here. So there was a question about process skills. If you Google quant process skills, there's an excellent playlist that Pyle created. You can really do that. We also have a phenomenal free trial you guys can take a look at, and we have a free webinar this Sunday that you guys can attend. Overall, I think that was one question over here. Verbal, I think Anirudh answered a bunch of questions over there. We have questions about at what point did you decide to take the final test? I think that's a really good question. So how did you decide you were ready?
Yeah, and actually, this is kind of that final stretch that I really wanted to talk about.
The last 20%.
Yeah. So I decided to take the test. It was mid-June. At this point, I started to see the cementing scores that I wanted to see. And I also saw Rida change her approach to my coaching. It became a little less tactical and a little more strategic. And at that point, I got this sense that I think I am ready to take this test. Like, quant is going well. DI is where I'm at, like where I want it to be. And so it was mid-June. I scheduled the test for the end of July because I wanted to give myself 1 month to really grind out those mocks. And also I have some like personal, career stuff and family stuff that date just made sense for me. So I want to break this down into two things. I want to talk about the approach we took, but then I want to talk about what we did in between each mock that really helped me improve my score. So when we look at overall approach, Rida and I basically designed this. We said, okay, let's start with one mock, take the mock, what'd you do wrong, and spend, a few weeks just going through those problem areas before you take the next mock.
So you had specific metrics you had to hit during those weeks on test readiness quizzes?
Yeah, exactly. So I took my first mock. I got a 675, huge improvement from 555. Great. That's when Rida and I started getting a little more intense into like, okay, specifically in DI, here's the targets I want you to hit. Hard accuracy, 70%. Try to up that percentage because I was scoring about 55, which I know is good, but for the type of score I wanted to hit, she wanted to push me up a little bit more and say, can you try hitting a 60, 70? Then in the month of July, I'm just going to call it a sprint. It was like mock, recover, talk to Rida, focus area, maybe 2-3 days, error log it, do a few more practice questions. Okay, are you ready? Next mock. So I took 4 mocks before taking the real test. My mock scores were 705. Oh, sorry. Actually, 675, 705, 665, 705. And then I got a 760. Actually, sorry.
No, you had a higher one too.
Yeah, there's a 755 also in there. So 5 mocks, which is crazy. And what Rida really reinforced was each mock, take it seriously, take it at the same time that you're going to take the real test. And we actually took it to a new level. I used the same water bottle, the same snack, the same section order for the last 3. I did experiment with section order on the first 2. That experiment was a hopeless flop. I went from a 705 to a 665 when I switched Quant and Verbal. So that's very important. And please read my article where I talk about that more in detail. But yeah, same snack, same library, same everything. And then when I got to the real test, it was like robotic, right? And you hear a lot of famous athletes talk about this, especially Roger Federer. He says this a lot. When I go into the French Open or Wimbledon final, it is just another match.
Yep.
That is what you want to be on the GMAT. It is just another mock. And because I took so many mocks, we were able to get there.
And I just want to really talk about, and I don't know if I can really share my screen over here. Let's see. You were talking about the strategic approach. So I'm going to share this. This is your study plan, right? There's no other Anirudh, I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think that this looks like mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So ML stands for milestone. You can really see make 1 mistake in medium and 60% accuracy in hard, quant TR condensed. You can really see all of these milestones coming up. here. This is a sheet which is just for you in this case, and you can really see the milestones being in here. And this is something that Rida and everyone in the strategy team does for every student who we take on as an LM student overall. So so that's something which I think that's it. And one thing that you'd really be happy to know is now you had to use custom quizzes to build these test readiness quizzes, but Rida has worked with the tech team along with all the members of the strategy team, and starting Tuesday, I think everyone will have a test readiness quiz feature in Scholaranium.
Nice. Cool.
So they'll be able to take test readiness quizzes, set their own metrics, and see if they've hit those metrics. So that's something that going from what we do just in the LM program to everyone on the exam.
Awesome.
So it's 9:30. I know you said you had a hard stop in 30 minutes. I don't know if you can take a question. Where are we? So
yeah. I mean, I can take one more question, or if we want to put some kind of closing words to this, either way.
Yeah. So I think so. From my side, this has been phenomenal. I will, for everyone, I'll still stay around. Anirudh has actually a hard stop at this point right now. We can take one question, which is how many months of preparation is required to get a score such as this one. Anirudh, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I hate this answer, but it is the truth. I think it's a very personal thing. I think for me, it took a year, but it's not like I was studying 3 hours a day for a year, right? Like, realistically, I started the e-GMAT course in probably, I mean, January is when I started exploring it, but really I got into it in like March because I had some personal stuff in February. So March to July, March, April, May, June, July, 5 months of prep. It took me.
Yes.
But of course, this is with balancing a full-time job, other life commitments. But on average, I was studying 2 to 3 hours a day for 5 months to get this score.
And you're talking about a 200 odd point improvement here. If you need to improve by 300 points, you're going to take about a month and a half longer.
Yep.
If you need to improve by 150 points, you're probably going to need about 3 months, not 4.5, the way Anirudh did. So it depends on what you need. Honestly, the way I would really say is once you hit cementing scores, once you hit those thresholds, then you add about a month and a half on top of it.
That's a great way to say it, actually. That last push is a month. You just need to grind that 1 month. Everything up to there, you can take your time. Whatever time you need to learn the concepts and really feel solid, that's what you should do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Bala, I think that your question's answered. Jayashrie's question's answered as well. So I think that is there. Anirudh, you can drop off whenever you feel like. There's one question which, again, I don't know if you're aware of this.
I just saw Prameet's question. Actually, I did review a question, and from incorrect to correct, and I got it was on Quant, and I got the Q90. So yeah, if you get it right, yeah, your score will go up.
Okay. So which mocks did you take? I actually didn't log into your account, so I'm not aware of this.
Which mocks did I take? I took only GMAT official guide mocks. I didn't take any of the Scholaranium mocks, but I mean, if I had more time, I would have, but I had enough to go. There's 6, more than enough.
Six. Yeah. So you took a ton of quizzes there. You had the metrics there already. So
yeah.
So
I'll just say a few closing words and head out. But first of all, would like to thank Rajat, Payal, Rida, and everyone at the team at e-GMAT. I think gratitude is very important with these things. It takes a village, right? Like, I had support from my family, and I had support from these brilliant mentors, which was able to get me to the score I wanted. It's not like I'm some genius and I did it by myself. I think gratitude is very, very important, with a level of humility also that it took me a year to get here. So don't think this is some magic overnight thing. I struggled. There were bad days, but you just have to keep going. 1% each day equals 365% improvement over the year. So it's all about keep showing up and keep doing your job. You will get there. And the second thing is that for all of you on the GMAT journey, just stay with it and find a great mentor. I personally recommend e-GMAT because it got me where I wanted to go. But whoever that mentor is, find a mentor, stay with it, and you guys will get there.
And I think it's really important to track your improvement. As you said, there would be bad days, but overall, if over a period of 10 days, if you're improving, then you are on the right path.
Yep.
That's absolutely critical. But if you're not, the way in your case, for 4 months, you still were at a 555, you needed a change of approach. So
Yep.
that's also absolutely critical to recognize. So tracking your improvements really, really important. And knowing what all milestones you need to hit, that's absolutely critical. That's something that I would really say. There's one. What did you do during the last month, or what should you do during the last month? If you want to answer that, or if, yeah, it's completely up to you.
Yeah, I mean, last month, mock analysis, especially your last 3 weeks are going to be like that. Right? I would take a mock on Wednesday, analyze. Maybe work would come in the way sometimes. Take the next mock that Saturday, maybe, right? And just keep alternating, and you're pushing to get to that final mark.
I think that the key over here is first of all, when you take a mock, you've got to make sure that you're in the zone.
Yes.
In your case, that was that 675 score. And once you're in the zone from mock 1 to mock 2, you need to have a goal to say, okay, maybe my verbal is 85. I need to improve that to 87. To improve that to 87, what medium and hard metrics do I need to prove to myself before I will take the second mock? And I should be able to prove that consistently to me. If I want to improve my quant from 83 to 86, what metrics do I need to improve? Where would those improvements come from? Is it number properties? Is it algebra? Is it word problems? So, and what are those metrics to prove that I've already made that improvement before I take that mock? And when you take that mock, track that improvement. Don't be disappointed if you've improved in quant and it's gone down slightly in verbal. That's okay. That might happen. But as long as wherever you put in effort, as long as you've improved there, that's okay. Then you go from mock 2 to mock 3, again with the next 20, 25 points of improvement. Got to identify where that improvement is going to come from, what metrics would signify that you've already improved, and then execute on it, about hit that improvement. And as you iterate more and more, I'm sure had you gone on, you would have gone on to get to that 785, 805 too.
Who knows?
Yes.
So, but I got to jump. Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Rajat.
Yeah. Thank you, Anirudh. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. So I want to thank Anirudh. He only had 37 minutes with us, but I hopefully they were useful. I still have a few minutes. If you guys have questions, I'd be happy to answer any question that you have. If not, then I'd like to take a leave as well. So so sources for CR and RC, first of all, make sure you are at that phase where your hard accuracy is at least a 60% and a medium accuracy is about 90%. Post that, you can focus on practicing official sources, building your error log. If you're an e-GMATer, you have a very trackable system where if you are at hard accuracy of 60%, we can really find out, let's say within CR, is inference pulling you down, is paradox pulling you down, is boldface pulling you down, are there strengthen and weaken modules that are pulling you down? So we can really do that, curate those closed loop improvement plans so that 60% goes to 70 and so on and so forth. Same thing with RC as well. Yep. Let's see if there's any other question left. It seems there is no other question. So Abhijit, I think we can. Q86, V83, DI64. These are scores out of 90, Ragini. So so that's something that's there. How is the e-GMAT course different from other courses out there? First of all, in many ways, I think when it comes to tech and content, no one's invested as much as we have. When it comes to tech and content, personally, we've invested about $10 million of our own money doing that. What it gives to you is a system that's extremely trackable. So, for example, let's take the case of CR, where every CR learning activity gives you personalized feedback. So within the CR course, you get feedback 87 times. And the value of that feedback is, let's say you've gone through a 30-minute learning activity. If you get a B grade on it, you made certain mistakes. You've got to revise that. And if you do that revision right then and there, then there's a 90% chance you're going to actually get an A grade in the next file. And then if you continue being diligent, you're going to see those high grades. If, on the other hand, you're not diligent, you're going to continue seeing C grades. And so we can predict your success. We can predict your likelihood of failure right in the first week itself. The second thing which is there is that we do a lot of personalization. So day zero, you start with a personalized study plan, and everyone knows how long they would take. If it's 2 months or 5 months, you would know where you're going to spend that money. On the quant side, we create custom courses for you. So we have a personalized adaptive course engine, which can generate upwards of 10,000 courses out there. That's, I think, a third thing. In terms of support, I think if you have a doubt, most of our doubts are responded to within 3 hours right now. About 80% of the doubts get answered within 3 hours with really comprehensive responses. If you go and ask anyone, if you are an e-GMAT, you really just say, okay, I'm unable to improve from this point on. You won't get a response that's generic. You'll get a response which is very specific to really say, these are 3 areas you need to improve on. This is what the data tells you. These are the metrics in these areas. These are the enhanced metrics. If you want to get to a Q86, this is what you need to hit. This is the set of files you need to revise. These are the questions you need to do. So something which is very, very specific to this. So again, check out some of the success stories on our YouTube channel. Look at why we have 2750 debriefs out there, or reviews on GMAT Club. And check out the free trial and you'll see that. Is there an option just to get verbal subscription? People who need just that buy the 2-month subscription. I mean, we used to have a $249 verbal plan, but then those people also wanted the mocks. Those people wanted the enhanced Scholaranium features that were there. And so they would just buy verbal, but then, and for $249, and then they would just say, hey, can I upgrade to Quant? So we said, if you just need verbal, we'll give you everything. Honestly, you get the entire platform, and buy for 2 months, you pay $199 rather than $249. That way it becomes a win-win. Because they would buy $249 a 6-month course, but they'd get done in 3 months, and then they would sell the course off, or they would really just say, hey, can I buy Quant for 2 months? And that was the real problem. Bala, again, as I said, every plan that e-GMAT offers contains everything. We don't bifurcate between a 2-month, 4-month, and 6-month as to what you get. It's just the duration is different. You can start with a 4-month, which for most people provides the best value. That way you pay the least per month, or you could start with 2 months and then buy extensions on top of it. That's something which is there. Typically, if you go, it'll tell you if you're looking for an 80-point improvement, a 2-month plan's best. If you're looking for a 140-point improvement, a 4-month plan's best. If you're looking for something which is more than a 140-point improvement, that's where a 6-month plan gives you the best value. And of course, you get GMAT Club tests with every plan as well. If you're looking for a live sessions plan, each plan also comes with a live sessions add-on. That's there. Okay. All right. It seems we've answered every question there is. If you guys have any question beyond this, you can write to me at rajat@e-gmat.com. With that, I want to thank everyone for joining me today. It was a pleasure hosting this webinar. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you both on GMAT Club and on e-GMAT. This is a GMAT focus course. There is no Classic score right now. Classic was gone on 31st of January this year. Okay, thank you. Abhijit,